We live in the information age with literally infinite knowledge at our fingertips. That little 3 by 5 black box we call a phone has more computing power in it than the world's strongest computers did 30 years ago. Humanity has exponentially grown in the past 30 years due to the dawn of the computer age and rapid advancements with things such as the microchip. And we have moved even faster with the dawn of AI and machine learning, solving problems at an even faster rate. But with all the information at our disposal, sometimes it can feel overwhelming for what is truth and what is fallacy. And it can feel even more intimidating to determine what is necessary to know and what isn't. Our minds just cannot fit every little bit of information into it. And additionally, around half of the information is either unimportant or flat out incorrect. And with this massive influx of availability of internet and technology to almost everyone on the planet, we are becoming more interconnected day by day. Yet, with this modern age of information, we as a culture seem to have forgotten some of the most vital things everyone must learn. You would think the more information, the better. And I agree to an extent. However, sometimes too much forces people to forget the most rudimentary of lessons. And with our current systems not providing us with the means to learn these things, I am here to discuss them in part to bestow upon you what I see as the most essential things all people need to study. And they are rather simple, but extremely powerful once mastered. Now, let me introduce you to the two things everyone needs to learn, regardless of your standing, status, wealth, or health. And I'm going to list them quickly, so pay attention. First, how to learn, and second, critical thinking. Pretty straightforward, right? And don't worry, I'm going to dive into each of these in detail as to why I think they are vital for any well adjusted, high functioning, fulfilled person to succeed in life. So strap in and let's get started. As stupid as it sounds, learning is something we do every day and is required to really excel in life. You never really stop either, even once you leave high school or college. You are constantly learning new things, as be it for your career or just on how to live on your own. From learning to do your taxes or learning how to run your first load of laundry because your mother is not present to do it for you. There is a constant learning curve you must participate in at all moments of your life. Yet many of us do not truly know how to learn or at least maintain the information we've already acquired and pull on it at a moment's notice. We learned all the fun tricks in school for times, tables, and grammar, yet many of these basic skills are not needed in the modern era with the dawn of the computer and services like Grammarly. Let me ask you this. Does anyone remember the finger trick for the 9 times multiplication set? Or remember the I before E except after C rule? Or when to use a comma versus a semicolon? Because I honestly did not until I looked them up and they kind of just snapped back into my memory. I was like, oh wow, we did learn this. That was a long time ago. And ironically, our school system does not do the best job at helping children retain information. Does anyone really think sitting in multiple classes for 8 hours straight, having someone talk to you really educate people? Maybe some, but most cannot sit still for 30 minutes. And especially young men and boys, as they typically learn by doing rather than being shown information to just digest. That's why the saying, men like working with their hands, is so prevalent, is that is how most guys learn, by doing rather than seeing. And yes, this is a generalization, but holds true for a majority of young men. And with this current school system designed more in part for how women learn, no wonder you see high school dropout rates increasing, college admission rates waning, and test scores decreasing among young men. Men are literally being put into a system not designed for their type of learning. And then when comparing this to trade schools, you see a stark contrast in how well men excel in these fields as they're physically learning rather than memorizing a bunch of key terms and formulas. This is not to bash the school system, as it works for some. However, maybe we should start asking, how do people really learn? Maybe you should ask yourself, how do you learn? Because everyone retains and learns information in different ways. I personally learn like most men do, through experimentation, experience, and hands on practice. You know the saying, perfect practice makes perfect. Of course, there is a little of theory involved, but I recognize memorization is not my strong suit for long term recollection of data. Staring at flashcards never really did a lot for me. I remember in third grade having to memorize the 50 state capitals for a test, and I failed miserably. I think I got like maybe 20 capitals correct, and this was after studying for this test hours on end using flashcards. Then my dad ended up helping me by getting a map, and we literally pointed to the capitals on the map while simultaneously covering the flashcards. When I retook the test, I got a perfect score, and to this day, I can name most of, if not all, the capitals. Funny enough, just changing the vector of how I learned significantly increased my ability to retain and recall the information presented. So you may not be a memorization whiz or might not retain everything you read out of a book, but there are ways for you to recall information better. Maybe the next time you read a self development book, instead of just reading it and understanding the concepts, put the ideas to the test. Every single one of us learns in a slightly different way. We all have the potential to learn amazing things and recall that information easily. We just need to understand how our minds learn new things. And I believe this takes trial and error. So instead of complaining about your last test score or failing your certification exam, assess how you studied and try something different. Reflect on ways you retain information in the past and try to utilize mechanisms that are to your advantage. Our entire life is one giant course with a bunch of micro lessons along the way. So it's best to learn how to learn so you don't have to repeat a grade. Like I mentioned before, we live in an era of endless information crossing our screens in seconds. Data constantly changing, new news, new studies, new insights every day. How do we pinpoint fact from fiction, lies from truth? That can be a hard question, my friend, as it seems for every study, there is a counter study that also proves the exact opposite could very well be true. So much conflicting information, and as the saying goes, there are two sides to every story. But how is fact a story? How can truth be false and lies be true? Well, it depends on who you're asking. There's an adage that if you get enough people to believe a lie, it eventually becomes the truth. And sadly, that is the type of world we live in right now. Whoever controls the outlets of information ultimately control what is considered truth or fiction. But that does not mean you cannot transcend this farce and use the greatest gift you were given, your mind. That amazing noggin of yours has the computing power of some of the world's strongest computers and can synthesize information together like technology is unable to. Funny enough, people think computers are so smart, but they really are just machines we tell to do something. Your mind is able to take different bits of information and piece it together, additionally adding your own interpretations, perceptions, and experiences to create solutions to problems, something computers currently cannot do. And you know what that's called? I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with cynical drinking. That's right, critical thinking, one of the ancient and forgotten arts of this era. As it seems with the rise of technology, people have forgotten how to think for themselves and will believe literally anything on the internet. Whatever happened to people researching multiple sources on the same subject to create their own understanding of things going on? Most people typically have one to two outlets of information they get all their facts from. And I'm not just referring to news, I am talking everything. For example, you do a short little Google search on why the sky is blue, and we'll only look at the top 3 search results instead of referencing multiple reputable sources. And no, I would not consider Wikipedia the most reputable source in my opinion. Instead of reading and reviewing scientific publications or multiple news sites, we are content with trusting the top search results of our browser. That's putting a lot of faith into an algorithmic search engine rather than putting faith in your own two hands. We fall in the patterns of groupthink and believe what the masses agree on rather than doing our own research into things. And you saw how that worked out when people used to think that the world was flat, how wrong that was. Everyone thought that the sun revolved around the earth until Galileo and his contemporaries did a little critical thinking and research of their own. Sometimes the masses have no clue what they are talking about. And sometimes people will believe lies because it's more convenient than thinking for themselves. Learning to think for yourself and synthesize information is one of the tenets to a successful life. You are no longer bound by the hive mind that many seem so eager to be a part of. You become your own person with your own beliefs and understandings of the world. And that definitely does not mean all your insights are true, because critical thinking does not always provide you with the correct solution. However, it allows you to fortify one of the best gifts you have and hones in that skill more and more. So, next time your Aunt Sue tells you so and so happened in the news or that she learned about some new scientific discovery, maybe you should do your own research to cultivate your own conclusions rather than just trusting what she says. And those are two of the most important things any person can learn in this day and age: how to learn and critical thinking. But you would be surprised by how many of us walk through our lives in lockstep with society rather than taking the time to master vital skills. These two skills allow people to become strong individuals, which in turn creates a stronger society. And for some reason, we forget that society is made up of individuals, not some giant collective. So maybe by changing and inspiring each person to think for themselves and create their own views, we in turn can create a better society. As I am a proponent of the idea that stronger individuals make a stronger humanity. So I will leave you with this challenge. The next time you have a problem that needs to be solved, why not try coming up with a solution on your own rather than relying on the internet to solve it for you? I trust you can do it. And if you fail, try again, because that's part of learning how to learn and think.